Welcome back, everyone. Generally, I thank my guests at the end of an interview, but because I hound this guest so often, because of the changing landscape in issues that I know that we want to know about concerning our health, yes, my guest is Ray Agnew, who's Vice President of Hospital Community and Engagement. So, are you getting a little tired of these invitations, Ray?
Never, Jesse, never.
Because it's really true. We'll finish an interview, we'll run it, and then all of a sudden the landscape changes again, especially concerning COVID. And at any rate, the reason that I asked you to join us today is that with FDA approval, that landscape that we're talking about seems to be changing. And given the sort of just the way the Delta variant of the coronavirus spread so quickly and is so contagious, and now there may even be another variant, it just seems now that we should revisit this whole conversation about getting vaccinated. Um, Take it away.
Well, it's just never been more important than it is now. And I've said this every time we've talked, and it's been true every time we've talked. It's never been more important than it is right now that if you haven't been vaccinated, that you get vaccinated. Um, yes, it's good news that FDA has given final approval to the Pfizer vaccine. But of course, the FDA has been monitoring it all along, and it had received its emergency use authorization. And so it's been proved safe and effective. And it's time for people to get vaccinated if you haven't been vaccinated. And I think it's important to let folks know that there are a number of sort of myths and rumors out there and misinformation, unfortunately, and people have questions. So we've developed a number of FAQs to help people navigate through this. And I thought maybe I'd just pull a couple of the questions that we've gotten out and share them so that people understand what's going on right now. One of the questions that we get asked most often is, if I've had COVID-19, why do I need to be vaccinated? And there's a very good reason for it, and that is because what's known as a wild caught infection, when you get COVID-19 in the community, the amount of immunity that you start to build up after surviving that disease is nowhere near as strong as the immunity that you can get from a vaccine. That's one consideration. And the second is that depending on when you were ill, it may have been pre any of these very dangerous variants that are out there, and you will have no protection against these variants, whereas the vaccines offer pretty good protection against these variants. Certainly very good protection against getting ill, and extremely good protection against serious illness or death. And in fact, just looking at the capital region, one quick statistic, if you are not vaccinated, you are 10 times more likely to be hospitalized and in the ICU on a ventilator than if you were vaccinated. That statistic alone, just for the capital region, ought to get people coming to see their vaccine clinics in droves.
A couple of things I wanted to ask you about. The FDA has approved the Pfizer. The other key ones, of course, are Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, right? And is it usual form that once the FDA starts down this path that they will try to approve the other ones like they did
Yes,
Pfizer? Okay.
yes,
And
yes.
the reason I ask that question, Ray, is that sometimes people have said to us, these are experimental vaccines. The emergency use authorization, as I understand it, doesn't mean that it's an experiment, that these
Correct.
drugs were released with a heck of a lot of data and a heck of a lot of science and knowledge behind them, and that the FDA approval is almost like the final step in that process.
That's correct. That's correct. It's absolutely wrong to characterize the three vaccines that you described as experimental. That's absolutely not true. Are we going to continue to learn about them? Of course we are. But the other thing that folks are misinformed about is how long mRNA vaccines have been around. They've been around for a long, long time. Um, Specifically used in cancer treatment, as a matter of fact. And the other myth that's out there is that, and I think it's probably because of the RNA designation, people seem to think that it will affect their DNA. And these RNA vaccines don't go anywhere near the nucleus of a cell. They can't affect your DNA. It's physically impossible for them to affect your DNA. And so, you know, one thing after another that comes out in terms of the misinformation machine, people really need to look for the facts and talk to their physicians and understand that these are drugs that are safe. These are vaccines that are safe. Right down to ACOG, which is the College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, along with the some of the other maternal and family societies, have all come out and said pregnant women should be vaccinated because we know that they are 2.5 times more likely, if not vaccinated, to have serious complications like preeclampsia or early term birth. And we also know that antibodies from the mothers who've been vaccinated have been found in the umbilical cord blood and in mother's milk. So there are so many good reasons for pregnant women to be vaccinated as well, to protect themselves and their unborn children and their just born children if they're lactating.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Ray. Johnson & Johnson just released some news about the efficacy of their vaccine, that a second dose, or what we commonly are hearing as the booster shot, can really aid in the development of the antibodies for these viruses. Is that right?
That's very early data that just came out today. It has to be vetted, of course, like all of this does. But that's another important distinction I think we should make between the difference between a booster shot and the difference between getting a third vaccine if you're among those who are immunocompromised, where you're not building up enough antibodies. A booster is something that is given post the initial vaccine to make sure that those antibodies stay strong, whereas a third shot for folks who may not be developing the antibodies quickly enough is not preventive or enhancing. It's to try to give them as much protection as possible.
Yeah, got it. Boy, thank you for those updates. I know I appreciate it. I'm sure our viewers really appreciate it also. I'm going to switch subjects on you. Just when I'm getting used to the fact that you win this national recognition, magnet recognition, that we're running those videos of the
Thank you.
of that recognition, by the way, as you know. And you got another one. And I've got to look down for a second because I got to make sure I do this correctly. Your world is very different than my world, Ray. But you received national recognition for stroke treatment. Now, I assume that comes from the American Heart Association, right?
That's correct.
It does.
Yeah,
okay, so first, congratulations to you and everybody at the hospital. But how does that go about? How do you get that recognition?
Sure. Well, we have a fantastic program. Cassie Moore, who's the director of that program, Dr. John Brayman, do a wonderful job with our stroke program. Every year we submit data to the American Heart Association as part of their program, which is called Get With The Guidelines. And this year we were honored with Stroke Gold Plus designation, which simply stated means that we're among the elite in the United States when it comes to stroke care in terms of getting the appropriate medications to stroke victims as quickly as possible and making sure that they have the best chance for not just survival, but good outcomes post treatment for stroke as well.
You know, the operative word in what you just said is as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. You know, when it comes to a stroke let me ask you this, a stroke and a heart attack, a heart stroke and a heart attack are different. Can you explain to us how they're different?
Well, sure. In the case of a stroke, and some of the guidelines are similar. Again, as quickly as possible, you want to administer clot-busting drugs when it comes to stroke or for a heart attack, the appropriate medications for a heart attack, because the adage is that minutes matter, Jesse. And when we're talking about stroke, minutes matter because every minute that goes by that we aren't restoring blood flow, more brain cells are being killed. And in the case of a heart attack, every minute that goes by where we aren't restoring blood flow, more heart muscle dies. And in both cases, that can be catastrophic for the patient. So the idea is let's get these clot-busting drugs, like TPA drugs, as we were talking prior to going on the air, that will allow for the restoration of blood flow and to stop the damage that started with the stroke. It's not necessarily reversible, but if you can stop it, you can figure out workarounds, and our bodies are incredibly resilient, but we have to get the medication in there, and we need to halt the progress of the stroke or the heart attack as quickly as possible.
Got it. Well, again, congratulations to you and everybody at Glens Falls Hospital for yet another national recognition for excellence.
Well,
Boy,
thank you.
right here in Glens Falls. Unbelievable, Ray. Hey,
It's a great place.
hey, I've got one last question for you. A viewer had commented to us, and I'm paraphrasing it, that the recent blood drive was dangerous because of the COVID virus. I don't believe that's true. Can you just?
No, it's not. It's not true. And part of the rumor that's out there also is that people who have been vaccinated, who then donate blood, the blood that they've donated, if it's then transfused into somebody else, will be dangerous because of taking the vaccine. Both of those are myths. It's not true. When we donate blood, it goes through an incredibly rigorous process of testing and purification to make sure that the blood and plasma products are exactly what they need to be for the people who need them. And the American Red Cross has a sterling record well over 100 years of doing an extraordinarily good job at this. So people need to feel safe about getting a blood transfusion, and there is a critical shortage of blood right now. So if you have donated before, you're interested in donating, there could be no better time than right now, because unfortunately people are concerned and afraid and not donating blood in the numbers that they have in the past, and we really truly need it right now.
Good. And one thing also for our viewers, don't wait for a blood drive. You can donate blood 365 days a year.
Absolutely.
You
Go
don't
to
have to wait for the drive.
redcross.org and
Right.
you can find a local place and donate blood right away.
Great. Well, now you know why I asked Ray to come on. I think it's like once a month now, Ray. But the landscape just keeps changing so rapidly, and very much appreciate your expertise and your knowledge. I can't tell you. I really appreciate it, Ray.
Well, I appreciate it. And a shout out to you and all at Look TV for being this incredible local resource and getting the information out there. Thank you.
Okay, my friend. Well, try to stay cool if you can. Okay.
It's a challenge.
And keep watching your emails, because rumor has it a couple of weeks from now you might see another email from me. Okay.
All right, Jesse. Thank you. Take
Bye.
care.